Okie dokie. I'm ready to start. So, clunk, there's my to-do list. So the plan today, I'm continuing to investigate this slightly mysterious issue. Maybe not that mysterious, but we've had this issue on the 386 that I've noticed since putting in the new tile renderer, and now the speed of the frame is, or the length of time we're taking to process frame has become even more important than it was before, because we no longer have a back buffer. And what I noticed on the 386, this is always the fake 386 in 86 box because I don't have a real one. But what I noticed on the fake 386 was that about every 100 milliseconds we were dropping a frame. And looking into it, it turned out to be caused by MicMod, the mod library I'm using to play the music. In as much as if I disabled MicMod completely, the frame drops disappeared. So I thought, well, that's sort of fairly reasonable, I guess. MicMod is going to be expensive. It is doing real-time audio mixing. It's sort of reduced as much as we can for the 386, but it's still potentially taking up a lot of processing. So the last stream was about replacing MicMod, with RAD, the Reality Adlib tracker, which is not named on this page. Oh, there it is, RAD. Which, thank you to Racing the Beam for mentioning that, because I didn't even know Adlib trackers were a thing, because that turned out to be really easy to integrate. So that's all gone in, and then I've spent some time off stream. Let's pause this music so that you can hear it in game. Clunk. If I go, I think here, I think this build is about ready. Oh, morning, Core10. Welcome in. How are you doing? So there we go. We get a bit of an intro that I'll probably finish off at some point. Right, there we go. There's the mod music. And now what we can do is we can go into sound and we can say music type, and we can switch that over to FM synth. And we get this rather funky new FM synth tune instead of the mod music, which incidentally, all of this FM synth music is, I have not checked any of the licenses for any of it. So yeah, if they'll not go into the final game if I don't have the license to use them. They're only there temporarily. Sorry, did you just say the words easy adlib integration? Am I going deaf? I did, as I'm demonstrating here. Although the fun part is it hasn't solved my problem. So what I can show you, let me see. I'll switch this back to mods again. And then we go play, and then we go into the game. Skip. And then this is sort of half broken at the moment because I'm still in the process of rewriting the render. Now you can actually see, I think, yeah, you can see the ship sort of jumping there, and those are frame drops. It's not quite managing 60 frames a second there, and this is DOSBox, right? This is not attempting to realistically emulate the speed. So that's kind of serious. And we can see what's going on if I quit that, Q, and have a look in the log. There's an awful lot of guff in here, but the important point is when we come into the game, we've got this output. So what we're seeing here, one of these lines, let's pick this one randomly. You can ignore pretty much anything after that. The important bits are that's the frame number, which shows this is not happening every frame, but it's happening every, what is that, every 6 or 7 frames. And that is how long the frame took. So about every 6 or 7 frames, the frame is taking twice as long as it should do. And these are numbers that I knew for putting the FM synth stuff in. So, and this was what I was blaming on MicMod, not unreasonably, because MicMod is every so often is going to have to set up a new DNA transfer, and it sort of makes sense with, I mean, not every 7 frames, that's a little bit odd, but actually, yeah, this is DOSBox, that's going to be different numbers anyway. Point is, it looked like that was MicMod doing that, which was the whole reason for putting the FM synth in. That's the wrong button. God damn. And now I have to quit again. Q. I don't know why DOSBox gets the key stuck when you quit, but it does. Anyway, we go back in again, switch that back over to FMSynth again. Because obviously FMSynth is a heck of a lot cheaper to process than real-time mixing of 4 audio streams. So now with the game, get a slightly too loud tune for the briefing section. And now we've got FMSynth music in-game. And you can see it's still dropping frames, not as often, but it's still doing it. And if we quit debugger, there we go. If we now have a look at the log again, it looks very similar. In fact, it's almost identical, actually, running on DOSBox. So that's sort of the puzzle. Obviously, RAD isn't going to be taking anywhere near as much time as MicMod is. What's really interesting is what I can do with RAD, because RAD's a lovely bit of code. I have to say, I'm a big fan of RAD from what I've seen of it, because it was so easy to integrate. But the important point with RAD is, unlike MicMod, which installs its own interrupt handler and deals with all of that completely separate to the game, you have no control over it. RAD is extremely lightweight, and it basically says it's up to you to decide, to hand the data over to the sound card. It will tell you, when there's new data. So when you set it up, where are we? Here we are. Load the file in, and then, yeah, that's all we do to actually start it is, there's the data. That's user data for me, but that's the actual music data itself, and that's the function we want you to call. And then it will tell us how often we need to update. And then I set my own timer, which I think it's 50 hertz for the main track. Every time that comes through, we call synth driver, which is up here. And all that does is call rad update. And rad update will then call write SB data in a big lump. It'll just send a whole bunch of Opal 3 commands through, as many as is needed for this frame of audio data. So it's really straightforward. And the point is, we control when it updates. So we can do it outside the interrupt. The timing's wrong, because the game's running at 60 frames a second rather than 50 or even less that the music wants to be. So the music sounds weird. It's playing at the wrong speed. But what's interesting is if I disconnect that timer, back, where's the other one? Where's the other one? There it is. So that's no longer happening on a timer. What we can do then instead, because we update the music driver every frame anyway, we call update on it, which currently does nothing. It doesn't have to do nothing. We can say synth driver. And so that means 60 times a second, we're going to be telling RAD to throw new numbers at the Opal 3. Which, as mentioned, that is the wrong speed, so the music sounds wrong. But the point is, the difference here is that we are doing this outside an interrupt handler. This is just main, what they call the foreground application code, what I would call the main thread, but obviously that doesn't mean anything in DOS terms. Okay, minute, understand? SB double bar R memories. Oh, again, oh nice. Oh, that's good. Oh, the integration is nice. The music tends to be in the hundreds per second. Yeah, that sounds fair. And I've forgotten something. Oh, it needs a null because it doesn't even need the user data pointer. At least I don't believe it does. Where has synth driver gone? No, it doesn't use it. I've just left it in there because I'm lazy. Fine. Rebuild. But it's sort of notable that, it's a sort of a symptom that there is something peculiar going on here with regards timings, in that the issue appears in DOSBox, because DOSBox's timings are so completely far from what actual hardware does. DOSBox is so much faster than real hardware. It's odd if you start getting things running too slowly in DOSBox. 86box, I wouldn't be surprised. but it's kind of strange that DOSBox does it. Why isn't it like 1/10 of the speed? We will find out in a moment. There's all two problems now, Striv. Oh, and they're right on cue. There's Dora shouting at me. Do you want to come up here and shout less? Or are you going to just stay on the floor and shout at me? You're going to stay on the floor and shout at me. I thought you'd choose option B. Right, let's run this again. So, skip the intro, hit the intro. There we go. So the music's obviously the wrong speed, but the point is, it's doing as much processing. In fact, if anything, it's doing more processing than it was before in terms of, number of times it's happening per second. But then we come through breathing. And there we go. Now, I don't know how easily you could tell on the stream, but that image is basically solid now. We are not dropping frames at all. Oh, until that point there. For some reason, we did something there. But that's fine. Now, if I quit that and then look in the log again. Now, where is... Now, that is saying we are still dropping frames, but I guess what's different is it's far less common. So that's sort of the question. That's where I'm up to now, is what is going on here? Because where's my main goal? There we are. Because what I already discovered last night looking at this is because MicMod suffers from... Because MicMod has the same symptom, but MicMod is not controlled via my interrupt handler. It has its own interrupt handler that I believe gets called before mine, but I'm not sure. So I know that this code that I've added for RAD, this can't be the problem. I did wonder, because I'm using the standard function callback rather than a plain function pointer. I wondered if there might be some cost to that, but it's not that. It can't be any of this code because MicMod shows the same problem. So it seems to be just the fact that it's taking too long within the interrupt handler. That's the only thing that makes sense. I don't really understand the mechanism by which, because it seems to have, as described here, like it has a, so it's as if the interrupt handler takes slightly too long, and then the next frame it takes, or the next interrupt takes slightly too long again, and then eventually that all accumulates, we drop a frame, and then it essentially rolls over back to zero again, is what I think is happening. Yes, okay, good. The cat is shouting at me again. What do you want? Do you want to come up? You coming up? Yeah, think about it. Come on then. Right. Oh, but there will now be some cat conversation while I encourage Dora to lie down and stop being annoying. You want to lie down now? Huh? Or are you just going to go up at me? Wondering, calculating how you can convince me to give you lunch at 10:15 in the morning. I'll be honest with you, that's not going to happen, darling. No, it's not. Good girl. Okay, the cat has laid down. Where were we? 30 would actually exasperate the problem. Not too long at wrong time. Wrong time seems very possible. How do you mean wrong time? Because what I was going to do, I'm going to try and recreate this, because I did this last night, and I want to see if this is still the case. I'm sure it is, but let's test. If I put this back to being timer driven again, what do that? So now we've got an interrupt handler calling this callback, but it just doesn't do anything. So now we shouldn't see any cost at all. Indeed, yes. I've been doing more staring at Jazz Jackrabbit, which has become a little hobby in itself of late. And yeah, sort of working out, realizing that all of the issues that you can see in Jazz Jackrabbit when you look really closely, they're all the exact same issues that I'm seeing now. So, which sort of, in a weird way, I'm taking as positive, because it means I am sort of going the same way. Right, that's built. Come back to here. And then we run this. Obviously, we're going to get no music now. But that interrupt's still happening. It's still calling the callback, but the callback isn't doing anything. And funnily enough, that's now fine. Stop that. Log, log, log. Yeah, and there's very little here about frame drops. Search the Jazz disassembly. Is there any sort of vertical control code whatsoever? You mean in terms of the VSync? I mean, you can work out what it does in the VSync just by looking at it. Where is there's 86 bucks there? Yeah, there we go. So I don't know how much this will be visible on the stream, because I assume the stream is only going to run at 30 frames a second anyway. Go. But like you can see in the status bar, that's currently running at standard VGA, like 70 hertz. But then when we get into game, there we go. That suddenly becomes 60 as it switches over. Get on with it. Yeah, so you'll just have to take my word for it when I tell you when things start slowing down. So that right there, that's obviously running at 60. I can easily tell that's running at 60. And we can run backwards and forwards here, that's all at 60 as well. Now, if we get to this point, I believe it was, there we go, that starts to get a bit chunkier. As soon as I start moving diagonally and it's got tiles to draw at the top right, the frame rate starts dipping. Now, the other thing that you can see, especially noticeable on here, I think, can you see that on the stream? So you can sort of see the horizontal sync sort of artifacting around the Jazz sprite. Sorry for the slightly motion sickness inducing up and down, but you can see the sprite sort of got a heck of a lot of artifact happening on it, and it's flickering every so often, and all of that will be because it's got no back buffer. As far as I can tell anyway. That certainly seems to fit. Now sometimes, oh, there you go, if you look, can you see, I think you can see it on the stream, if you look at the tree towards the top, there's some sort of artifacting happening there as well. And as far as I can tell, that is purely just because it's racing the beam. Are there wobbles visible? Don't see any wobbles. Can you see the wobbles on the tree there? Can you see the wobbles on the tree? That's a sentence I don't think I've ever said before. The weird flickering, yeah. And that's, like, you can see a very similar thing to that in Space Cats on the ship. Oh, and it's gone again. It's visible there, though. Gone. Visible again. So it's interesting. It's like, what is there on the screen or close to the screen that it's having to now deal with that's taking slightly longer? Interesting. Don't see any walls, just a flicker. Oh, fair enough. But I mean, as soon as we start sort of getting into the game properly, like here, this starts to, on 386, this starts to get painful. Because this is obviously not managing 60. And then from that point on, like just running along the level, it's just got too much to draw. It's not managing 60 at all. And then there was a section with the bridges as well, where I assume, yeah, here we go. I assume the bridges here, these must be composited on CPU, because the frame rate is terrible when these things are on the screen. So, like, again, yeah, I don't know how much you can pick that up on the stream. But anyway, point is, that as far as I can tell, all of that sort of seems to confirm what I suspected anyway, which is that it is it's all done without a back buffer. So yeah, I don't remember what I was talking about now. But of course, what's interesting about Jazz is it manages to do all that rendering, and it manages to do real-time audio mixing for the mod anyway. So they're certainly managing a lot more than I can do. Um, but yeah, it's still slightly mysterious that we only seem to get this issue when it's within the interrupt. So it's like, well, because I don't have enough experience with interrupt handling and this type of programming to really know if maybe this is normal, maybe this is just how it works. Um, and if that is the case, then there's a potential to work around it, which is written on the screen somewhere, but I can't see it. There it is. Which is that instead of having the interrupt handler itself drive the music, we just set a flag saying we need to send a new batch of Opal 3 commands across. And then the main thread, which at some point is going to be waiting for a vertical retrace anyway, can just go, right, fine, I'll do it. And I think that would probably avoid the problem as well. And maybe that's the correct way to do it. I don't know. That's sort of this is one of those issues where I don't know what I don't know, if you see what I mean. So I'm not sure if what I'm seeing is sort of expected behavior and therefore that solution is the correct one, or whether it's just some sort of silly hack to work around something that I've written wrong, um, which is equally likely. But it's worth a try, though. I think what I was in the middle of doing, did I just rebuild this a minute ago? I think I did, didn't I? Because oh no, we'd already run this. That's with nothing happening in the um, synth driver, and so we can just give this some busy work. Don't do anything. In fact, we'll volatile that as well, just to make sure it doesn't get optimized out. Let's read it. Trying to think what would show off wobbles. Are there any large vertical sprites? Probably, but I'd have to go and find them. What I really wanted with Jazz was an ability to just export the entirety of VGA memory as a screenshot. Oh, not as an image, I mean. That would really, you know, confirm what it was doing in terms of a back buffer. And I don't know, I found sort of mixed reports about whether DOSBox can or can't do that. If it can, I certainly haven't been able to figure out how. Um, I should really skip this now. All right, so there we are. And you can see, yeah, just doing some busy waits, we get the same artifacting. I mean, it's much worse actually now. Um, so that seems to confirm that it is just that RAD update is just doing too much work. And it seems like on the 386 especially, we've just got an extremely limited time to do any work inside the interrupt, which is sort of fair. Again, it's kind of what everybody says about interrupts. You shouldn't be calling any system services, and you shouldn't take too long. And so, yeah, that sort of inclines me to think, well, maybe this is normal then. Maybe this is correct. Oh, me too. I managed to dodge the problem because I'm currently using a really bad library for video and keyboard handling that basically says, for the love of God, don't make your own interrupts. It will break everything. Fair enough. I mean, I think one of the sort of things, I can't really show it on string, but like, because in a different window, but one of the things, sort of references I was using was the Allegro library, which I've been looking at since the beginning. I can't even remember what I was looking at initially in there. Probably the sprite rendering, I think. But like looking at the way Allegro handles timers and stuff, it's kind of similar to what I'm doing, although interestingly enough, by default, their interrupt only runs. Now, what is it? It was every two, was it two? Can't be 200 milliseconds. That can't be right. No, it must be every 5 milliseconds, I think. Yes, that sounds right. Which is kind of bizarre. I'm not sure why they do that. It seems like possibly to avoid this problem, but then the interrupt's not re entrant, so it's not being called. Well, I just don't know. as soon as I start talking about this, I realise I don't know anything about it, and so it starts to become a bit silly. Calling any BIOS interrupt should hang from within your own interrupts. They don't. I'm a bit jaded about Allegro. So, I mean, I sort of was fine. It's kind of a meaningless thing, really, because people on the internet having opinions is not a new thing. But I stumbled across some thread recently where somebody was saying, well, Allegro wasn't all that back in the day. It was fine if you were making Pentium games, but for the low end, it wasn't much cop. Um, which I don't know. That doesn't sit right with me, to be honest. Certainly their sprite rendering code. They went to quite uh, they went to quite some length to optimize that, and it seems like you wouldn't really need to do all that much if you were aiming for a Pentium. But I don't know. I got burned so bad by Allegro that I just stopped, kind of trashed any idea of using it. Oh, okay, what happened? Kind of intriguing. Um, but yeah, so Allegro does two different things with the timing. It's got one sort of timer that works the same way as mine. That's just regular interrupt from the timer interrupt. But then it has another one that they call the variable rate timer that appears to be. I didn't really look into it that thoroughly, but it looks like it's a one-shot timer that then reschedules itself. Um, but surrounded by code comments and warnings about this does not work under any flavor of Windows. So yeah, I don't really know what that was about. They made Sprite to code library. Oh yeah, that's one of their formats of Sprite. Yeah, they it's some sort of. Yeah, I didn't look into it too thoroughly because I thought, yeah, that sounds unnecessary for what was then a jam game. Definitely down to the wire coding. Yes. I think, to be honest, I think what I looked for, what I went looking for in Allegro at that point was were they rendering the sprites in as mad a way as I felt was necessary? Because when I started looking into the modex, etc., and realizing that actually for this to not be slower than mode 13, you're going to have to split all of your image data by plane and draw it one plane at a time, which is sort of like conceptually a bit bizarre. If you're thinking of images in visual terms rather than just moving data. Um, and I remember looking at Allegro for that and finding, no, that's exactly what they did there. They're like, okay, fine. This clearly makes sense to somebody other than me, so I'll go ahead and do it. Um, but yeah, so that's where we're up to with this. And I think that's the next thing to test is to try flagging this in the timer and then picking it up on what I'm very keen on calling the main thread, even though that's very much not what it is. Um, I got burned by the fact someone put together a collection of files and they said this will make Allegro. This will make Allegro compile in DOS, we promise. If we follow these instructions step by step, we even included FreeDOS and DOSBox. Literally nothing can go wrong. It didn't work. Yeah, that sounds par for the course, I think, really. Yeah. No, that's a shame. But I mean, that's a whole thing. Like, I know a lot of the sort of retro people are very keen to recreate a sort of a retro dev environment as well, and I'm like, no, that's never appealed to me. I mean, there's a certain nostalgia to using Turbo C++ because that's what I used to use, when I was a kid. But I don't have nostalgia for I think the nostalgia would wear out quite quickly, using those old tools. I mean, especially when you consider how much I complain about the modern tools. um, I'd probably complain even more about having to use Turbo C++. Anyway, right, back to here. Can we set a flag and have the main thread check it during the wait for retrace? Let's find out. So this is going to call, it is synth driver on the timer, isn't it? Yes, which we don't really want because synth driver is a synth driver. At least for now, we just want to set a flag. Data ready. Which will also, well, that's another thing I've been doing sort of by rote. Let me write this function first, otherwise I'm going to forget that I need to do so. Void synth data ready. Let me, can't be static because it's, no, it can. Can it? It probably can't because it'll have to be accessed from outside. We can have an accessor function, whatever. It doesn't matter. Just write it and change it later. Synth data ready, which I'm now going to have to call flag because it's got the same name as the function. Synth. For some reason, my brain cannot read or write the word synth, but it's not helpful. That'll do that, and then we'll do that. Now, what I was going to say a second ago is the other thing I've been doing is all of this guff. When I've been sort of writing this stuff, I've been neatly locking all my variables and locking all the functions, which is, what you're supposed to do as a good citizen dealing with interrupts and whatnot. Yeah. But what it occurred to me updating all of this code recently, I think I put a comment to that effect. Yeah, this is all about preventing the DPMI paging out anything that might be vitally important during an interrupt. I'm explicitly disabling virtual memory. I don't ever want it to page anything out because I don't want it using virtual memory. So I don't think any of this is relevant, but I'm doing it anyway. Just thought I'd mention that. It's a great example of sort of my level of familiarity with DOS coding is that there's a lot of it that I'm doing by rote and then months later go, no, wait a minute. Now that I actually understand what that code does, I don't think that makes any sense. Anyway, I'm going to assume it's harmless. Famous last words. Okay. So this is setting a flag. And then I don't think it shouldn't be you that does the update because you're just going to be called at 60 hertz anyway. And this needs to be called when the flag is set. So get rid of that in case it ever gets called by accident. And then, okay, let's just do something horrible and hacky for now. I can't put it there. I'm going to continue doing this nonsense. Even though I've literally just said that this is pointless. I'm doing it anyway because I'm not 100% certain that it's pointless. I think, if possible, that it might actually be pointful. So I'm going to go through the motions here anyway. Synth data done. I could never get TGUPV to actually work outside of Linux. I would assume it's using virtual memory anyways until proven otherwise, but we've had this discussion before. We have, yes. No, it's got back. What's the crazy tool? There's a tool that does it. Actually, let's do it and find. What's going build? Is it CWS param? That sounds familiar. What's in my build script? Because there's probably something about calling CWS param in here. Yes, stub. Oh, there we go. And then we call stub edit to change the stack size. That's not turning off the virtual memory, though. I can't remember who does that. Who does that? I could have sworn it was CWS param. You got me intrigued. I can't very well run it in this terminal, can I? What am I doing? DOSBox. Hello there, Housewife. Welcome in. Happy Sunday morning bug hunt. Yes, indeed. Thanks very much. And there's some spam. I'll get rid of this spam. What am I doing? I am about to run this function, aren't I? CWS param. Is this the interactive one that presents you with a bunch of questions? I think it does. cats.exe, I'm assuming we give it a parameter. Oh, I think I know how this worked. I think I've used CWS param before on the stub CWS loader, and then we just add that in. That's why I don't have to do it. Okay, so there you go. So I'm asking it what the parameters are for cats, and the first thing it says is the paging file's disabled. So yeah, it's not using virtual memory. Right, what are we doing? Back to here. This is all locked. This. I know you can't hear her, but she really does make a racket whenever I stream these days, don't you? You little furry menace. You be a good girl. Can you be a good girl for all of an hour and a half until lunchtime? Do you think you could manage? I think you could if you try. Yes, you can. Life with a cat. Right. What was I doing? I've been trying to write this code for 20 minutes now. Okay, so that's not how we write C, is it? Come on now. We do need a type. This isn't JavaScript. Right, so then that's set to true, and then we can't use that function, so we'll just have another one which doesn't need to be declared in that silly way. And I'm going to sensible and make it part of the that's valid do. M. First we are going to check the polls. It doesn't really matter though. If since there's ready black not paused red update, there we go. So then we're going to need a prototype for that. And okay, anywhere doesn't. Oh no, that's fine. Void, I think that was called. I've already forgotten what that function was called. It was called update synth. Okay. Ah yes, the logical C syntax. Blah blah. What a language. Just as long as you don't put the pointer at the beginning. I actually made that mistake this week, I think. First time in got to be 25 years of doing like jar star thing one, thing two. Thing two is not a jar star. Anyway. Right. Update 10. So now we need to call that which is available if we get hold of the driver. Oh, it's Jabba. My brain was totally confused there. Hello, Jabba. Welcome in. Thank you for the resub. What happened there is I looked over at OBS and I could see the chat and it said Jabberwocky, and then there was, because you've just typed the emote, a picture of my cat, and my brain went, your cat has just subscribed.
This is now lore, yeah, it is. Bennett and Miguel are fish people, yeah. And even Rush.
There we go. What's that game called again? I watched you streaming it and I've completely forgotten the name of it. It's cute though. Have a nice arm. It's work now. Yes, literally this morning before I started streaming, I was like, I must remember to put Jabu back in the main thing, and I did finally. I told you it would take 5 goes, but I did remember eventually. Sea of Stars. That's it. Right. Okay. Update synth. Which now the problem is I need to know when to. I mean, I could just call it in a loop. It's not the worst thing in the world. Yeah, let's just do that and see how well it behaves. So that, unfortunately, is going to be deep in the rendering code, which is Grizzly. But I don't care. I just want to know if this works. We can make it less hacky and horrible later. We never will. It will always stay hacky and horrible. Okay. So that is going to be, so game is not on the screen. So Where is it? Yes, that's the one I was looking for. World renderer. We don't have that open either. World renderer. You can tell I'm in trying to fix bugs because half of this code is commented out. Right. And it's full of angry comments. So right at the bottom, we are waiting for a retrace. So what we can do, rather than just busy waiting, at that point, we can say, if, oh, I really don't, that's fine. It's fine. Deal with it later. What did I call this function that I only just wrote the other day? I think you have to get the config. Audio get config dot music driver type equals audio music driver type RAD player. Yes, if we're using the RAD player, then audio music get driver, which I'm then going to need to cast. But I'm only typing it once because I'm lazy. Music driver RAD seems reasonable. It was lowercase rad, wasn't it? Yes. Where was I? There. Oh, driver updates in. Updates. Right. So now, while we're waiting for the retrace, we're going to be repeatedly calling update synth. Update synth is not going to do anything unless that flag is set. And that flag is only going to be set by the interrupt. So it's slightly indirect code now, but I'll be interested to see if it behaves any better. It probably won't compile because I will have just written some terrible code. Well, I have written some terrible code. It's hacky as flip, but will it compile? That's the question. Oh, let's chat at me. Nope, dead. Let's see an overhead RPG that late. Game was really fun. Love the music and artwork. Beautiful. I'm doing nostalgic and an aesthetic that has broad appeal. Could test the hell out of prototypes to make sure random people without the nostalgia goals would like it. I made a magical adlib library that isn't a nightmare to use. It's true, and we can all I can thank Racing the Beam for mentioning it right on cue, and then we can all collectively thank hello Racing the Beam, by the way. We can all collectively thank I've forgotten their name. Moral Recordings, who apparently mentioned it in a stream, which is where RTB picked it up the other day. So there you go. Okay, the cat is screaming at me again. Would you like to come up? Or are you just going to sit? Yes, I love you too, Talon, but you're not getting your lunch at 11:15. I love how transparent cats are. But if I do slow blinks at you, can I have lunch? No, that's not how this works. Bless your little furry heart, though. Right. Where were we? Oh, there she is. Played RPGs like that when I was young, so I have no nostalgia for them. Yeah, no, that's true to me. Thank you for checking in, Gemma. I was halfway through that line and I've scrolled past it. I do have nostalgia for games with pixel art, though. That's probably why I loved it so much. No, I seem to recall Moral Recordings was talking about a GPL3 library when I was talking to him, and it was emulating Adlib as well, not actually using. So this one, I do have a browser, I think, on stream. Where are we? Oh, no, not that one. There it is. Browser. No, I mean, browser? No, that's not a browser either. Oh dear. Unprofessional streaming. That's what you get here. There we go. Right. So if I go and find Rad player, I might find it. No. No. Oh, no, it's a video game. I tell you what. Reality Adlib Tracker. Incidentally, Reality Adlib Tracker, the acronym of that is not RAD, it's RAT. But, you know, these things, the sort of things that I notice. So yeah, what I was gonna mention is, where even is it? Is there a GitHub or something? No, I don't want to download it. I thought there was a page. Oh no, it's mentioned in the docs. I remember. So yes, this rather lovely text file. Is it all the way down the bottom? Because the program itself obviously is a tracker. It's meant to be for creating music, but then I think it was all the way down the bottom. Could be wrong. Was it near the top and I scrolled past it? What does it do? Starting round, layout, pattern editor, instrument editor, order list editor, loading and saving, instrument library riffs. Really? Ah, there, that's the bit I wanted. Coding notes. So yeah, that's the player is player 20 CPP. That does all the producing all the correct Opal 3 commands to that. So then you can just shove them down the bus to the adlib. But then the other thing that is not mentioned there it is. Opal. Is this the thing you were just on about? Um, Core 10, because most of us don't have the luxury of running original Yamaha Opal 3 hardware, especially if you're a Mac user. Hello! So there is an Opal 3 emulator called Opal, which I assume is as straightforward as their player. Anyway, get rid of that. Get rid of that. We need to fix these many build errors. You drive around. Oh, well, that's a fair enough point. I haven't got the include. Oh, I've put the font size up today for your benefit, and I hate it. I hope you appreciate that. It's I find it really hard to read when the text is this big. Anyway, engine audio. Do we need audio as well? Maybe not. Let's just give that a go. See where we get to. Yes, reality add lib tracking. It's true. But then I would argue it has to be RADT, like RADT. Stop screaming at me. There's no point screaming at me. It's not going to make me give you lunch early. That's not how this works, darling. No. My streams are entirely me trying to persuade a cat that it isn't that it isn't lunchtime. Yeah, okay. I heard your screams. I acknowledge that you think it's lunchtime. However, in reality, that's not what it is. Good. Glad we got that straight. Where are we? Redefinition. Really? What have I done wrong here? Music driver add, CPP line 55. Well, come on now. It's got the wrong name. Not the wrong name. That is the one we're calling, isn't it? We have flag locked it, even though I don't believe we actually need to. And play. Where's play gone? Where is play? There it is. And we are calling synth data ready. Okay, fine. I'm ignoring everything else and just rebuilding. Missing chat again. I'm not touching GPL because I'm not providing tech support. If I dump the source, I take no responsibility. Seems fair. Never ever claim my source is usable. Yes, a chronic problem on GitHub with open source depots. Also true. I just got up and don't have my contacts in yet, so I appreciate the bigger font size. Oh, it's nice to know at least. Because I certainly appreciate it when Beam does it on his stream, because I'm normally on the other side of the room looking at the TV. And so, yes, source code is quite difficult to read at that distance. Right, I'll fix this. Could not convert synth data ready from void to timer call back function. Oh, it needs to take a user parameter. Why did I add that? It's the only place I'm doing a timer callback, and I don't need a user parameter. But I added one anyway. Right, fine. Synth data ready, you say. Back up here somewhere. Somewhere. There it is. Void stone out. Dragon. Back to the chip. Didn't know Reality AdLib provided a convenient player plugin. AdBlog was looking very attractive, but there were issues with the license or something that made me no about. That's fair. Must be a dream using Unreal. I take issue with the word dream, even if it sucks all your childlike joy out of coding. Unreal even owns it owns Rad, not to be confused with this Rad, but yes, who owns Smacker and what's their texture compression called? I can't remember, but I think that's probably the main thing they bought them for. Right, that's built. So back to here. What do I think is going to happen here? Non-zero chance we get silence. We might get unstable music. That could be quite fun. We might get music that sort of speeds up and slows down. Let's find out. Skip. Or we might get none. I did say none, I think. I think none was an option. Why are we getting none? Interesting. Can you call cycle time opcode from within an interrupt? I can't remember. Well, I mean, I sort of can't, because my only ability to track time is the interrupt itself, which is half the fun. Is then you've got no idea how long the interrupt takes, because you can't time it. So, right, what have I think I'm probably going to do something horrible and that's weird. No, I'm just going to do something horrible and put this in here. There's it. Ready. Now that should fill the log with that and possibly do something unpleasant with the interrupt, but we'll find out. What's that? Oversight by our dev tracker. I have misunderstood your question. Not providing timing. Well, so AdLib Tracker doesn't do any timing. That's sort of the what's it's slightly peculiar, but it does mean that their code's extremely simple. So the code that it produces, which is pretty much just the content of the file that it opens, is just a list, a sequential series of Opal 3 commands. But they have to be sent in batches at the correct rate. And so it just tells you when you load the file, this is the rate you should be passing this through. So if you call my function this many times per second, I will give you exactly the next chunk of data that you need to pass across. And so, yeah, it doesn't do any timing. It just provides the next batch of numbers when you ask for the next batch of numbers, but tells you how often you should be asking, if you see what I mean. Skip. Oh, yeah, we got silence, but just checking that is still set. Yeah. So do we get anything in the log about synth data ready? Yes, we do. Okay. Do are we? That suggests then that that loop is never happening. Where even is it? I can't remember. There it is. So actually, I'm wondering if we're already into the retrace by the time we get there. Okay. Did I get rid of the other one? Nope. Nope. turned off my background music because I'm playing, at least in theory, playing music in the game. There we go. Run that again. So is this DGBB in Linux or in BSD? To me, they look the same. It's OS 10 on a Mac. Yep. What are we getting in the log this time? Boink. BSD-ish. Oh, I suppose so. Log. Yeah, that's never happening. Okay, that would certainly explain it. So instead of that, then, can we chuck it somewhere else? I mean, we could put in any of these weights, actually. Sod it. Let's get even messier. One, two, three. By way of several different defunct companies, mostly Next. True enough. From that strange period where, for some reason, we were all obsessed with making one program's data drag and droppable into every other program. Do you remember when we did that? Dora, shush. Stop shouting at me. It's not lunchtime. Still nothing. What? Oh, for goodness sake. Oh, Christ. All three of the previous tests have been completely irrelevant. I'm not in the right mode. I'm in the menu instead of in the game. I have to go into the game to trigger any of this code. Oh, fine. I guess we'll go in the game then. Wow. I think that might be a bit fast. It's pretty cool, but it's not at the right speed. I think we can agree. Text. Mostly waiting through. Oh, I'm never clearing the flag. Oh, wow. Yeah, that'll be why. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to. Where is it? There it is. Skip it straight into the game so that I don't have to wait for that anymore. Not really, unless you count com, ActiveX, etc. objects which still exist like a zombie. Like it. Yeah, that's the glitch version, I think we'd call it. The glitch music. People like the young people like glitch music, don't they? The young people. That's a bit better. It's a little bit chumpy though. Oh, definitely dropping frames there. Which is odd. Why are we dropping frames? That sentence can end there. Why are we dropping frames? Because if we just update as a matter of course, it doesn't happen. I suppose, yeah, okay. No, there is, yeah, no, this does make sense because now we're doing it at this point. So where we should carry on, or rather finish this function in this case once the vertical retrace starts. If that takes significantly longer, we're going to be well into the vertical retrace instead. So it is going to affect the timing, just doing it here. As opposed to doing it anywhere else. So actually, yeah, if we just do it as the normal, in the normal frame handling, then we would get wonky music. Because it would have to try and fit the update to the nearest 60th of a second. So it would. I mean, I'd kind of like to hear what that sounds like, because I assume that would speed up and slow down, or would appear to. I sort of want to hear that just for entertainment's sake. Let's get rid of all these again. Actually, to be fair, the printing out is not going to have helped. Anyway. Fine. I don't remember to drag any program into any other program movement. I would need to see articles to remember, because that describes several different attempts at said thing. Wait, so you do have vsync code, even if it's busy wait. Is that the point? You absolutely don't want an interrupt fire. Doris, shush, it is not lunchtime. Sorry, where were we? Do you have vsync code? Yes. I'm not sure why you thought I didn't. So, I mean, I don't have a back buffer, though. That's what we were talking about earlier. The exact point, you absolutely don't want an interruptifier. Yeah, that's also true. But we could disable interrupts for that point, but it'd be too long. So, yeah, there's not a great deal I can do about that. What have I done here? That doesn't sound right. Oh, are you just missing an include? Yeah, fine. Let's chuck it here, because we probably don't intend to keep it in here. Audio, right, music, driver, .h. Remember Rush saying, don't worry about VSync, just work around it. Yikes. I mean, the problem is you have to deal with it to some degree if you're using the scroll offset. Because if you set it at the wrong point, you'll get a half scrolled screen. See, that's what Jazz does. That sounds all right. Oh no, it sort of tripped over a little bit there. Okay. So for when I start moving, yeah, it's sort of a little bit Amstrad-esque now. As in, you can tell when the processing goes up because the music slows down. Especially if I move diagonally. Yeah, it's slowing down a little bit. But the frame rate's stable. So it does have time to do this. It's just that it's doing it at the wrong time. Q. Intriguing. What does the log say? Hello? That is in game. And it's saying it's missing a lot of frames though still. It didn't look that bad though. Intriguing. Where were we? No, there. Intrigued by this. Just hiding large vertical sprites to hide it. What do you mean? Yeah, you can only set the offset at specific times. If you try to do that halfway down the beam rating, it actually won't shoot because it literally won't do anything that will be visible until the next frame. So partially that's the same. The problem is because I don't think you have this in EGA because I don't think you would need it. But in VGA, you've got two different scrolls. You've got the start address, which I believe is the same as EGA, but that's 4 pixels wide. So you've then got the, what do they call it, the PEL panning, which took me this long to realize that PEL is an IBM term for pixel. They invented their own word for it, which is extremely strange. But yeah, that's what you use to get smooth scrolling. The problem is, if I remember rightly, Clunk, which way round is it? Yes, the PEL panning takes effect on most VGA cards at the end of a horizontal retrace, but the start address takes effect at the beginning of a vertical retrace. So you've got to do this slightly silly dance of waiting for exactly the right things to set them both. Oh, there's the other one. Look at the other one. Yeah. 1 second, I'll be back in a minute. Right, back again. Oh my god, Owl. You've probably just saved me several dozen hours. Okay. Um, where was I? I think one of the weird things about it, though, with the timings on the PEL panning and the start address when they take effect, that one of them, I can't remember which one, but one of them is much more variable across the different VGA compatible cards, I seem to recall. I really need to actually tank the bandage off and throw this dodgy graphics library in the trash cold turkey. It's spoiling me. So that's another thing that I'd noticed with Allegro just this week, actually looking at Allegro in the timing code itself, in the interrupt handling for the timer. That's when Allegro does the setting the start address and the PEL panning. So like my interpretation of that is that Allegro takes that all completely away from the programmer. Like you don't touch that, don't even think about that sort of thing, which struck me as a bit okay. If you're sort of looking to get maximum performance, that seems like that would not be the right approach. But I don't know. I've never actually used Allegro. It's making things too easy, but it's also horrifyingly slow. Yes, I mean, I definitely found that with earlier iterations, like fiddling with the timing on this. It's much easier to set this up in a way that it essentially will just skip a frame, but everything will remain completely stable. But yeah, it makes it very hard to manage 60 or even, for that matter, 70 frames a second if you're in the default mode. Anyway. Mini FBR, mini frame buffer. That sounds very distantly familiar. It's really not terrible, but it has to go. Fair enough. Hang on a second. Back in another minute. Back again. So many interruptions this morning. Right. So what have we discovered so far? that there's plenty of time in the frame to update the music, and I'm also kind of thinking there's probably plenty of time in the frame to update the mod music, as long as it's inside the frame and not in during one of these tiny gaps. Because I think you're probably onto something, Corten, actually, in talking about, that's the exact time when you don't want an interrupt. That is presumably exactly why we were getting the issue when updating the synth via the timer, is that's probably, every so often that's going to trigger inside one of these waits, and it's going to end up skipping beyond the end of the retrace. So it's a question of how do we? Is there a way that where can we put this that it won't cause a problem? Because it definitely is the case that we do have the time to update the game and update the synth data in a single frame, because I can just drive that without waiting for the behind the scenes flag. I can just drive it every frame regardless, and that's fine. We don't drop frames when we do that. So that only makes sense if no, no, that doesn't make sense. What is going on here? Because it's odd that because all we're doing on the timer now, literally all we're doing is we're setting a flag. So there's no way the interrupt is taking too long because it just sets a 0 to a 1 and then goes back. But we aren't picking up that flag until the beginning of a frame. So how come intermittently calling update synth or intermittently updating the synth causes frame drops, but continuously calling it or calling it every single frame doesn't? Because we're calling it in the main application code. We're not calling it in response to an interrupt. I don't understand. I don't understand. There's something I'm missing here, and I don't have any idea what it is. EFP, yeah, the whole don't make your own interrupts means it's even hard to just write around its deficiencies. Okay. That doesn't mean I'm right, but it would have been my suspicion. Fair enough. Mini FB does ring a bell. Is that another one of those sort of open source projects that's existed for ages? Because I wonder if I used it on Linux at some point. The secret ingredient is crime. And right on cue, Dora meowed again. I know, yes, again with the slow blinks. It is 11:15. It is not much time. Oh, you're a pest, and it is. I hope you're aware that I have noticed that it is only when I'm streaming. I have noticed, you clever little trick. Thinking that it'll persuade me. Well, not this time, pussycat. Stuck to pawing at me. Oh, now you've got yourself stuck in the chair, you dafty. Keep trying, there you go. Oh. Or a cat. Where were we? I think it's actually a Rust library. Oh, okay. I ended up having a DOS port as a mystery for the ages. That's just Rust people, though, isn't it? It's like, oh, we can make Rust run on everything. We can make Rust run on DOS. We can make Rust run on a hat. We can, Sorry, I'm being mean about Rust people. I don't really have such strong feelings, to be honest. Right. What am I doing? If we were just to take that out, we would essentially be running the same code as we did earlier, where the music is going to run too fast, going to play too fast, but we won't drop frames. Is that still the case? And if so, why? We changed our Cat's Biscuits last week and they're demanding less. Interesting. The problem is Dora is just perpetually demanding. That's sort of sadly that's her character. That's just who she is, which would explain why she was an enormous beach ball of a cat when I first adopted her. I can't remember if I've said this before, but you know how they talk about things being off the chart. I don't know if you've ever had an overweight pet, but if you go to the vets with an overweight pet, they literally will show you a chart showing very thin cat, normal cat, very fat cat. And when I first adopted Dora, she was literally off the chart. She was so enormous. We don't know exactly what her past was, but ever since, she has always been what is euphemistically described as extremely food motivated. So, yeah, to a certain degree, you just sort of get used to being shouted at. I don't really have any choice. Okay, music's too fast. We're not really dropping frames though. I mean, we are occasionally. Again, I don't know how visible that is on the stream. That is mostly fine. Not bad. Put her on Meownjaro. What does that mean? That just makes me think of Manjaro, which is a type of Linux. Okay, I want to look at the log. Interestingly, though, this is still saying that it's dropping a load of frames. Sort of can't see it though. At least not really. Oh, Manjaro's a weight loss drug. I didn't know that. Meownjaro. No, she's fine. She's a perfectly sensible weight now, but she just hates being a sensible weight. I think. They say about cats, like cats are grazers, so you just pour out food and they'll just have a bit of a snack when they walk past. No, if there's food visible, Dora will eat it. So yeah. So what's the difference here? How come calling that every frame is more stable than calling it intermittently? That doesn't make any sense to me. Unless... No, I still can't really... What's the other thing I should be doing as well is I should be having a look at 86 box, because that's going to behave differently, and indeed it's going to behave worse. So, oh no, I've not unmounted my CD. Never mind. Cancel. Unmount the CD. Come here. Remount the CD. Do that again. Wee messy. I think that's loud enough to hear on the stream. So I think it might be louder for the stream than it is for me. Anyway. You can certainly hear the music slowing down. more obviously here. Yeah, okay, that's fine. I would expect it to get flickery when we start moving vertically. I mean, wow, that's a great demonstration of how much slower the frames get. Is how fast that music is. Oh, hello. It goes full Amstrad when we move diagonally. But if we put that flag back in again and then run that again, it'll behave much worse. Which seems backwards to me. Dara is continuing her grumpy noises in the background. There we go. Back in again. So vertical movement's definitely a chunk worse. Music seems to be kind of stable though, which is kind of interesting in itself. Well, is it? That might be a bit slow. It doesn't seem to dramatically, it doesn't seem to change. Interesting. Yeah, that could be vaguely interesting. I don't particularly understand it when I read it, but we could certainly look at that. So that is in this here document. Plunk. What section did it say? 6.17. Okay. One. Thank you. Detecting interrupt delivery jitter. By reading CTC channel 0 on entry-tool interrupt handler and looking at the amount of variation from the highest raw value read or the expected raw value. I don't have an expected raw value because I don't know what you're talking about. Assuming that the reload value is known, okay, that at least gives me a vague idea. CTC channel 0. Okay, if the jitter is excessive, tell the user it's their problem. That's not my favorite solution to that issue. CTC channel as a reference. Oh, I see. Yeah, of course, because you could have multiple timers running at once. I didn't think of that. So you could actually time a timer. Could you? Wouldn't the other timer interrupt? It's intriguing. Using channel 2, yes. I don't intend to make any PC speaker beeps, so yes, that would seem reasonable. Prevent cumulative error but would not fix the jumpiness. It's an interesting idea, though. Is there a way that we can time the timer? Because that would be nice. Okay. Aim. The handler. Callbacks. There's the init. Okay. So basically a bunch of that. Then with pit 2, I believe. We have some background music again. Where even is the background music? Oh, there it is. Is that playing? It is playing. I'll agree, that's very thoroughly adorable background music. So basically just this again. Or I really hate the disable enable. We'll take that bit now because we need to know the locks. Okay, fine, we'll just cut and paste it then. Just do it the rubbish way, it's fine. I hate doing this though. It's essentially just duplication. Can we not do something less horrible? Probably not, because it's all just static daisy. Okay, fine. Whoops, got rid of my screen. Let's undo all of that. Why is that static? Does that need to be static? Oh, there we go. Okay, we'll build fine, so I'm going to just say that's fine. Run them both at the same rate, in which case we only need the one. Yeah, the locks are going to behave differently, but that's fine, I guess. Oh, they're all in there. So we can just lock the struct then. Though again, as I keep saying today, I don't think any of the locking actually matters. That's not going to work because that macro is going to do fidgy widginess to get the end. so tempted to just get rid of it. Because I don't think it does anything anyway. Fuck it. Again, no, that's... I think we are going to have to make those outside the struct. But they're only structs. Surely that's fine. Shit the willy. In fact, however, is, I think, a static function. Oh, still not static. We don't have any of that anymore now. Oh yeah, I remember this crap. It's extremely C-ish code. I mean, I'm going to move that anyway. Shit. That is not the button I meant to press. There we go. Put more C++ guff in the audio drivers. The audio drivers are objects, and you can feel it in the compile speed. What? Oh, of course it is. There's a whole other bunch of places I need to fix yet. Silly me. Ultimately, I should really have that. That's true. Is there really not a nicer way of doing this? Again, we just have to duplicate the handler, which is a bit crap, but kind of defeats the point of putting it all in the struct if we can't get hold of the struct. Fine. Actually, the timer 2 isn't gonna need to do any chaining because nobody's listening for that interrupt. Oh, that timer. Well, they're both going to fire the same handler, aren't they? Wait a second. How am I even going to tell which one's bloody firing? page is not terribly usable. It even says that at the top. It's so huge, the table of content on the right doesn't work very well. Is that a function of it being huge, or is it a function of you not being able to write web pages? I think it's the latter, isn't it? Anyway, eight. Again, 386, that doesn't matter. This is not very useful, to be honest. Or rather, yeah, this page is kind of like reading Wikipedia. It's got an awful lot of information in it, but it's not that parsable. Or at least it's not a great learning resource, I guess is what I mean. Okay, let's get rid of that for a minute. And indeed, let's just undo all of this. Where's the timer? There it is. I bet I've changed other things in here. I have as well. I really do need to get into a habit of committing before I start streaming. Thank heavens, but infinite undo. That's probably too far. Okay. Isn't it? No, it's not. Keep going. Fine. Now I'm happy again. Okay. So Oh, I don't have the browser on the screen, but I did. Plunk. That's what I'm looking at. If anyone cares. Okay, so I don't need to do any handling to use the timer 2. I can just read the current value from the I/O port, so that'd be useful. But it depends what its default count and reload values are, which it's going to be set up. Okay. Well, let's just grab some numbers and then we'll yeah, because we sort of don't want to. We don't need to change the reload value, do we? We just need to understand what it means. Yeah, I know what I mean. I just can't explain it. That's fine. Okay. What's 61? So back to the code again. Clunk. Pit 0, is that in this file or in the header? It's here. That's 40. That fits with the 42 that was mentioned a minute ago. Excuse me. Yes, that's the data port for channel 2. So we should just be able to import that. And that'll give us a incrementing and wrapping number. I don't know. I've left it. Browser on the screen. Kinect. All right. Done the 2 time. I want to call this secondary time. That's a weird term, but it'll do. Let's chuck that down the bottom somewhere. Why am I saying unsigned int? Oh, it's a 16-bit value, actually, isn't it? There's a low byte, high byte, which will be used in the init. So there we go. Yeah, okay. So import in a similar way. So it should be an unsigned short then. Time header. What am I doing? Yeah. Brief Madness. Is that what it was called? K-Pit 2. What is it called? So that's going to give us the low byte first, I think. Why not have to trigger something to say that I want this? Or is it just going to alternate? Probably missing something here, but it's fine. So we're going to want to turn honeybirds shoved that way by 8 bits. Robots, no battery. Definitely feel like that's missing something. Back to the web. So, read the channel 16-bit grid count. Okay. Now, I don't want to change the mode, so fine. Fine. Skip. Read back. Sounds irrelevant. Reading the current count. Here we go. Oh, I am supposed to chuck something out. Read the current count. Okay, fine. Although by high byte, you need to send the latch command, right? Which is that, presumably, and channel in bit 6, 7. Okay, so I need to change that. Latch command above. If any other code would try to set the reload value after you set the latch command, you'd have to prevent it. Fine. Latch. Talk to me of latches. Here we are. Oh, I see. Okay. B. Go. Website off. So, having said that, I'm going to go back to the web page. Corresponds to the. Oh, sorry, right. I'm being a silly person. Right, fine, good, fine and good, fine, good. So that was huge. That doesn't make sense. Oh, I'm reading it wrong is why. It's 0p0. But again, no, the... What? What is that supposed to mean? That was down here. Somewhere. Go past it. There it is. Remaining. Oh, that's it's a binary number. Good grief. That's why. Okay. I thought that was hex with the B in it. I don't think I've ever done that in C. Can you even do that in C? I'm going to Google that now. You write binary numbers in C. I suppose you probably can. You can write octal numbers. C, binary literal. Can I use a binary literal in C or C++? If you're using GCC, you can use a GCC extension from C++ 14. I mean, okay. So this is just a slightly mad website presenting it like that. Okay, fine, whatever. Back to here, it's a 16-bit number, and I want that value to be a 2, so that would be the top byte. So that's 8000 in hex. What? Match that. Give us the numbers. Chuck them back. Sounds fair. Probably. Well, we're going to print this out just as a test. Every frame. Arbitrarily. It says should have been declared inside timer. Was it not? Was it not? Okay, so I'm going to I was unsigned int. Don't. That'll teach me to cut and paste. Okay. Are you intending to eat the food that I just provided? You do know what that noise means, don't you? You know that's the automatic feeder that provides food. Why are you behaving so strangely, cat? Do I need to... Right, excuse me, I'm going to walk a cat over to a feeder to show her there's food in it. Back in a moment. Well, that was bizarre. She spent the past hour and a half demanding lunch, and now it's finally appeared from the automatic feeder, and she's just ignored it. Now that I've told her that there's food in it, she's actually gone and eaten it, but I don't know, very strange. Anyway, where are we? Tying the 279 reading? Oh yeah, is that not a 16-bit value? Oh, because I've cut and pasted it, right, because it was a binary value and it had that many digits in it. I'm being confused. Good. Let's actually just check that. I mean, it's going to have to be an 8-bit value, yeah. Right. Sorry. Yes. Fine, we compile. Here we go. Right, DOSBox. Though, yeah, DOSBox is going to give me slightly strange numbers, I'm sure, but as long as it gives me numbers that change, it should be fine. It has For what? Oh, I've got a beach ball. I was not expecting that. What is happening? Something's gone very wrong. I think I've gone and murdered DOSBox again. Fine. False quit. Sorry, DOSBox. Sorry. Not responding. Yes, I can see that. Do you want to kill it? Thank you. Right. I don't think that was just DOSBox being silly. I think that was almost certainly my dodgy code, but just as a test. Let's try that again. Okie dokie. See you in a bit, Corten. Let's try that again. I'm assuming that's going to die again. Boom! It has just killed itself, but in a different way. Either way, it's not very happy. I have made DOSBox unhappy. So, I'd say, am I talking to it too often? But that doesn't seem terribly likely. I know, sad face, sad face. I like DOSBox. I don't like to upset it. DOSBox maybe needs some chocolate. I need some chocolate, I tell you. Oh, and I've got some in the kitchen as well. And it is nearly lunchtime. But lunchtime can't just be chocolate. At least that's what grown-ups tell me. Right. Why is this being weird? It feels like, I mean, I must be doing something dodgy here, but there's so little to it. It was OX43 that I was sending that to, wasn't it? Having leftover lasagna, yes please. I'm actually surprised you could get takeaway lasagna that wasn't terrible. I think it's just I'm just used to most takeaways being terrible in Britain. And certainly, I would say takeaway Italian food that wasn't pizza. I would just expect it to arrive essentially in a bucket. Just a sort of a big smashed mess. Whatever it was. Anyway, let's go back to this website. OX43. I should disable interrupts. It's a little bit strange that you're disabling interrupts and then not re-enabling it when you're done, but you know, it is only example code. Okay. I mean, maybe I should do that then. Maybe I should do that. Oh, hello, pussycat. Did you enjoy your lunch, even though it wasn't leftover lasagna? Yeah. You seem a bit happier now. Italian restaurants are really good usually over here. Yeah, Italian restaurants are fine here too. I think it's just getting takeaway from an Italian restaurant. I would just expect it to be destroyed by the time it reached my door. Right. Really? Interrupts were the cause of that? It's possible. Just doesn't seem very likely. Let me check that code again. It's 40. In theory. Unless I've got to do something. But even if I haven't initialized the timer, it should just give me dodgy numbers. It shouldn't die. Mysterious. There we go. Very wistful background music now. It's reflecting my guilt and grief at upsetting DOSBox. I'm sorry, DOSBox. Can you ever forgive me? Where's DOSBox gone? There it is. Okay, It was just interrupts. Okay, that's fine. So I don't really need to do anything. I just want to do that. Start queuing. And then have a look in the log. That would appear to be the same number forever. So that's not very useful. It would be quite, if that number is changing and rolling over, it will be quite the coincidence that we asked for it at exactly the same time. So that number's just not updated. So is that just because I haven't initialized it and told it to? Yes, because it's a PC speaker interrupt is what it's expecting to be used for. So that is not going to be counting by default. Seems a reasonable assumption. This page will probably tell me that somewhere. The frequency of the sound produced by the speaker, right? So it does sound very much like I'm going to have to tell it what to do, because by default it's not going to do anything very sensible. So that would look very similar to the setup for channel 0, which is the one we're actually using. But we don't need to do any of that. What if we just do that again with bit 2? I guess I'll have to do that again. Well, let's ask the website again. Oh, select channel bits. Right. Bits 7 and 6 of this guy. What does that number look like? 84. Okay, so that's currently 0, and that would be to set 2, so that should be a B4. So am I saying output mode regarding the thing I'm about to tell you about, or do I need to combine that into both? Oh, you can't see the code I'm on about because the browser's still on the screen, but it's fine. Yeah, no, those would have, it's not a bit mask, so I'd have to call it more than once to deal with more than one channel. I'm just going to casually assume the code's right, because that's worked well so far this morning. Okay, so B4, pit 2, we're calling that pit 0, but it's fine. Probably fine now. Probably fine. I fancy a snack. So do I, Dora Pussycat. So do I. But I can't have one because it's lunchtime. And I have to have sensible food. And not chocolate. This build takes so long now. Stuff. Wait. Q. I've closed the log. It's still the same number. Oh, wait a minute. No, it shouldn't be optimizing that out. It is a different number to what it told me last time, though. It's a bit strange. And also, I'm definitely missing something here. Let's put that over there. Get rid of some of these. Do I need to do anything else with that value? Oh, I see. Right. So it should be 1, 1, which it will be, because the other one is. Let's check. Seven, 6, 5, and 4. Yes, it's 1, 1. And then that's mode 2. Fine. Strange. .43 is pit mode, right? Yeah. So this, yeah, that makes sense with what I've just read. So is no. I can't think of a sensible reason for this behavior now. Because if it just didn't, if it was in like a default non-counting state, then everything will be zeros, surely. Because it's an incrementing counter until it hits a whatever they call it, a count, and then it resets back to 0. So the only way you could stop that counting up would be if the reset value was at 0. But it's clearly not. What the flip is going on? I mean, is it, oh, hang on. Is it optimized at the other end? Are you calling this once and then? No, that doesn't seem to make any sense. Nope. Design value. Of interest, because presumably that's the wrong window. Presumably 86 box is going to do something very similar, or crash. Gonna be fun finding out. Squidge. $11.93 is the exact same value. So is $11.93, because that maybe that does fit with it being the PC speaker intro. Maybe $11.93 is some sort of default frequency for the PC speaker, which is why it's not changing. But that means that that code that's telling it to actually treat it like a normal timer and run it at a particular rate isn't working. We're doing that. We're already setting the reload value now. These fails consistently. Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's a clue as to how it's wrong. 1193 must have some sort of meaning. Like I say, it presumably interesting. What are these magic numbers? The oscillator runs at 1193. Okay, so that's the frequency of the chip. But, yeah, which sort of, again, though, does seem to just... Can I not do this with the speaker timer? Am I just not allowed to have it run like a normal timer? That seems... Unless there's some way... There we go. Channel 2 is connected to the speaker, but can be used for other purposes without producing speaker tones. I mean, honestly, as it's only testing, I wouldn't care if it did produce audible speaker tones, but it's just not behaving the way that I would expect it to. Doesn't matter about the IRQ. Generate input series of time text frequency of your choice. Connection with the gate input can be controlled by software via bit 0 of IO port 61. Oh good, I get to prove I'm a human. I think I'm a human. I'm feeling relatively human today. There we go. These can be connected directly to the output but by setting bit 0 of port 61. In this mode, when the timer goes high, the speaker will move to the out position. This mode is very popular because it is easy to program and is asynchronous from the rest of the computer's operation. I would like to not do that. But then, even if I did switch that off, that feels like that's just telling the PC speaker how to interpret the value coming from the timer, it doesn't seem like it would change the behavior of the timer. But USB can be connected directly to the output of timer 2 by setting bit 0 of port 61. So if I set port 61 to 0, that would disconnect it. But I don't think that's going to make any difference, because I don't think that's what the problem is. But let's do it anyway. And let's do it right here. Shut up, PC speaker. Oh, left the web screen. There we go. That's what I just wrote there. I don't believe that's going to have any bearing on what we're doing here. The worst part of the past couple of weeks is writing little test programs that use some of the source code from the game, but very little of it. And most importantly, cut out all of the C++ bits. Compiles in a fraction of a second. So fast. We'll never see days like those again. We will, if we just stop using C++, but you know, I will keep reaching for it. Right, let's run this. So I'm not expecting this to behave any differently. Q. Back to the log. Yeah. Fine. So it feels like we just aren't. We're either not correctly setting the. What's the terminology? I'm looking at the wrong page. Talk about counting. Here we are. So we're either not setting the reload value correctly, but then I don't think it can be that, because it's like it's not counting. Or it counts down, at least it would do. I feel like there's just a fundamental misunderstanding here that CDC channels 1 and 2 can also be used for timing. Timer 2 read back signals. Okay. Now you see, I think I skim read this earlier and thought that I could just use timer 2 the same way as I use timer 0. But perhaps that is not the case. Mode 3. Square wave generator. That doesn't sound right. Do you mean, no, that's access mode. Oh, you're talking about that as a mode. That's read back. But we don't specify channel. Read back. The readback command, these bits have a different meaning. For the remaining combinations, which ones are we talking about? The bits in access mode, right. This bit specify what order data will be read and written to the data port for the associated bit channel. Okay, well that's. Oh, I see. Sorry, right. So you're saying for the readback, it's different. Here's the not readback version. Okay. Special command sent to command register. Readback is not supported on the old chips. Should be supported on all AT and later except for PS2. I think we're probably all right with that. Count flag, let's read back timer channel 2. Okay, maybe. Careful, bits 4 and 5, they are inverted. Right, I see what you're saying. 1 to 3, the readback command, select which bit channels are affected and allow multiple channels to be selected at the same time. 5 is clear. Oh, I see. Status. Okay, so I need to call this before. Okay. I don't think I need to do any of that then, because I don't think it's relevant. Oh, you can't see it. All right. What did that say? That was around 80. Oh no, it's the latch command, right? Sorry, right, okay. Back to the readback then. Bit 5 is clear, then any all pit channels selected with bits 1 to 3 will have their current count copied into their latch register. Okay, so I'm going to want to issue this readback with bit 5 clear and bit 3 set. Alright. And then I'm going to have lunch because I am starving. Okay, the latch count needs to be zeroed. 7 and 6 must be set. 7 and 6. I don't want to latch the status. Are they not mutually exclusive? I say I don't care about the status. In which case, 5 is 0 and 4 is 1. Okay, we want to read back timer channel 2. Everything else is 0. That gives us D8. So, do I need to do both of those things then? Oh, you can't see the code again, sorry. I keep forgetting about that. Right, back up there. No, so that's the latch, isn't it? So right, and then we need to do that to do the latch. But that's only going to work if we've updated the latch count or copied that into the latch. Okay, I think I understood that. Try that again. What's for lunch? Chocolate. I think lunch today is probably beans on toast, just to be such a UK cliche for you. I don't think I've really got anything else in. And I have a strange thing that I've had for, I think, probably since the COVID lockdown. I don't go to supermarkets on the weekend. So, yeah, when it gets to the weekend, if I don't have food, I just have to make do until Monday. Chocolate with beans. Sounds good. Actually, to be fair, chocolate with beans could be a description of chili. Not these kind of beans and not that kind of chocolate, but you know what I mean. Right, let's see what happens this time. Yep, stop queuing. And the log says... Oh, yeah, we put dark chocolate in when we make chili. Yes, of course. But it's the bloody same. Missing something here. Keep missing something. So the read back, that is a variation of the mode, so we're doing that, that's fine. Bit 5 is clear. Any bit channel selected with bits 1 to 3 will have their current count copied into their latch register. Do we still need to do this? It's possible, so let's do that as well. Fiddling until something works. I mean, doing serious software engineering. Fiddling until something works. Nope. Oh, I've left the thing on the screen. Well, you can take it from the no that that didn't work either. Ouch. What about this here status byte? Oh, I see. You'll tell me how it's set up. Well, that could be interesting as a confirmation. Data for each select channel will return a status value with the following format. Similar to sending the latch command, except it works for multiple channels with one command. So that suggests I don't need to do the latch command then. Back to the page that said we should do this in the first place. Back. Number 2, read back signals. Mode 3, see section 720 for details. Mode 3 you're talking about. Which mode are we talking about here? That's what I want to know. Presumably that one. In which case mode 3 is the only one we've ever used. Unless of course you mean that, which is not really a mode, but oh hang on. That's called a mode, but I don't think that's what that means. Okay, well, that one. It's a low byte, high byte, which is what we're using. 720. Not massively inspiring, but okay. Wow. This function latches reads and returns the current count value for timer channel 0. Readback status plate. Output pins. Right. Yes. I mean, problem is that is timer 0 that it is kind of annoying because the whole point with that was he was saying that you can use it on channel 2, but then he doesn't. Because that's the problem here, is I am not convinced that this is even possible. This document suggests that it is, but then provides sample code that does something else. One thing I definitely don't get in this sentence. Timer 2 readback signals on port B. What's port B? Okay, that's where the speaker is. Since timer 2 readback is on bit 5 of port 61. Refresh detect signal might be more appropriate. Read only signal bit 4 of port 61. What's that then? That got sarcastic quickly. Oh. Right, yes, no, that's not really very useful for timing, though, is it? Hmm. 3-1. All right, I'm hungry, so I'm going to go and get lunch and then come back to this later. I think I'll probably end the stream here as well, because I don't know that I'm going to carry on streaming after lunch. So, thank you for hanging out. And hang on a minute. Where even is the thing? I can't find it. There it is. Right, thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all next time. Ta-ta!